Hey YouTube. This will be week 22 of the YouTube Pagan Challenge, and this week's topic is, do you make your own correspondences? And I think everybody does to a point. I definitely do, although I had a bit of trouble trying to come up with examples. Because mostly when I go to do any sort of working that would require correspondences of any sort, generally I look to myself first. I'll kind of just ask, like, what do I think would go well into it? If it's something that I am working on a very specific purpose, I might double check that. But it depends on how strongly that gut feeling is to coming through, because there have been plenty of times where I'm going to put together a little mojo bag or do a specific candle spell or whatever, and it comes into my head to put a specific symbol on there or whatever, and even if it's not 100% related, it came to me at that moment for a reason, and the same goes for you. There are, of course, things that you wouldn't want, but you'll know if it's something that you feel, if you have any doubt whatsoever. But if you've got a really strong feeling, there's a very good chance that it's a reason that it came to you. I mean, specific herbs, I will sit there and I do a lot with just kitchen herbs. So it's like, well, if I'm adding herbs to something for healing, first of all, it has to mend well with the flavors, or I will just add like a tiny pinch. I've been known to add some odd things if it's a soup or whatever, like, okay, cinnamon, we'll just put a little bit in there to give it that, the energy to it, but not enough for the flavor to come through, because a tiny pinch of cinnamon in a whole pot of soup isn't going to come through, but it gets the energies melded in with the soup to bring that property to it. Cinnamon's pretty versatile. I use it a lot for love or healing or prosperity. Basil, oregano, those types of things, the ones that I would use. It just depends. The one example I could come up with is, I get the number 222 a lot. I have a couple of screenshots that I've sent to friends because it's like, I'm not lying, it happens all the time. That has a specific meaning correspondence-wise, especially if you look at the angel numbers. But to me, because my mother's birthday was February 22nd, it's her letting me know that, hey, hi, how you doing? And I think those types of things happen to everyone. You just have to be willing to see and listen. A lot of people, if they're skeptical at all, try and brush them off as coincidence. And I think they're less coincidence than a lot of people like to let on. I couldn't think of any other types of examples because a lot of my, like I said, it's herbs that are kitchen herbs. I have very few non-edible herbs in my house, and I'm probably getting to the stage where I could start doing more of that, but for a long time it was simply a safety precaution. My youngest is 8, so I'm at that point where I could probably start getting some of the stuff that was different and just keep it in a different location, which the few that I have, I do. I keep it in a like a train case. It was an old makeup case. It's really dusty. Up at the top, yeah. It doesn't lock or anything, but the kids don't mess with it. Well, at least the younger kids don't mess with it. I'm certain that my oldest has probably gotten into it at least once or twice when looking for supplies. But, I mean, even just going outside, if I were to look around at the different plants that are outside, they all have a specific meaning to me, and that may not be the same meaning to others. The correspondences that we tend to have are kind of a, what would it be called? Like, you have your unverified personal gnosis, and then you have your like verified personal gnosis for the stuff that people share. I think the correspondences that make it into books end up being those verified personal gnosis, where it's shared among others throughout the centuries, throughout the years, whatever, and they've all found it to be true, and so they basically decided that, oh yeah, you know, vanilla is really good for love. But if it, to you, I think something like vanilla, think of what you would have as a child. Like vanilla is used a lot in baking. This is going to be the nostalgia trigger for a lot of people. So they're going to think of family times and togetherness and all those. So I think that's kind of where it comes about. A lot of ums here. I did try and kind of think this through before I did it, but ultimately it comes down to, yes, I make my own correspondences. I think most people do. In a couple of books that I read early on in my path where they were very, very, very specific, and I believe actually a lot of it did come from the Ravenwolf stuff, Cunningham. I've definitely read a lot more since then, but they stressed so much. Use your own intuition with a lot of these things. I mean, first and foremost, it has to be safe. You can't sit there and go, well, I feel like hemlock should go into this tea. No. It has to be safe first and foremost, but if you're doing anything externally or creating a witch's bottle or like a mojo bag or sachet type of thing, I actually have one on, but I'm not going to show you. Adding things in by what feels right is important. And I actually did sort of a workshop on this, is one of my last things with the Inland Empire Pagan Guild, where I brought Cunningham's book of magical herbs and a couple of other books along that line, but I put everything on the table and I was like, pick what you think should go into it for your intention. Write it down on the piece of paper and then check it. Because often there's this aspect that is correct that came from your internal flame, your spark, whatever. So that'll be it. Bye.